Okay, it looks like everybody was able to log on, and if some people come a little bit later, that's okay too. They can just jump right in. Before I get started, you should see an option on your screen for questions. If you guys could just put in your name and chapter there to make sure that's working, um, we can ensure that's good to go. So that way, during the webinar, if anything comes up, you can submit your question there, and then our co-host Amanda will be able to answer them for you. She also may just wait till the end if it's something that may be a good question for everybody to hear. We may go over that, but don't worry, we aren't going to name any names or call you out or make you speak or anything. It'll be anonymous, so don't be afraid to start submitting those. But let me switch the screen now. So my name's Hannah Gunderson. I'm going to be presenting today. And like I said, Amanda's our co-host. I don't have the picture of her up here, so I did her a bit of a disservice, but she is here and she will be in that question chat answering all of those for you guys. I'm also going to hand it over to her, and she's just going to give you a little overview of Omegafy and the different things we do for our customers.
Thank you, Hannah. Hi, everyone. As Hannah said, I'm Amanda. I'm with our professional services team. For OmegaFi hosts and supports OmegaRecruit. And for more than 30 years, we've provided technology solutions to help customers manage their finances, streamline their operations, recruit new members, and communicate with their members. We are based out of Columbus, Georgia, and we securely process more than $1.1 million per day for our clients and have securely processed more than $4 billion since 1992. We're also deeply committed to serving, promoting, and advancing the fraternity and sorority experience. We're passionate about what we do, and it's this passion that has encouraged our clients to trust us to do the heavy lifting so they can focus on their mission and having fun. So I will pass it back over to Hannah to get started on the training.
Thank you, Amanda. So going to this next slide here, we have our agenda. So we're going to go over tips for successful recruitment, logins, and account setup. So that's going to be for you and your users, your members, the main menu function and features, voting and reporting, and then at the end we'll do that Q&A. So again, you can ask questions throughout the webinar and Amanda will be answering. But again, if it's one of those that it's good for everybody to hear, we'll just go over it at the end. You'll also be able to submit things at the end. So if you want us to re-go over anything or you just need a little clarification, we'll use that time for that. But going to the next slide. So here is our tips for successful recruitment. Number one, just overall be proactive and prepare. So you can do that by logging in. I would have you log in, make sure you can add your users and have all of your members make sure they can log into their account, that everything's working at least a week before recruitment. If sooner, that would be even better. Nothing's going to change. So getting all of your members in your chapter that's going to be participating in recruitment, you're going to want to add them, make sure they can get in. If they can't, we have different support teams here that can get them in their account. That way you're not pressed once recruitment's starting, trying to get people logged into their account so they can vote. The next thing is going to be practicing. So what we're going to go over today is this like mock recruitment. We have practice files that you guys will be able to download and use to go through this like fake recruitment with your members, or even if it's just like a small team, maybe like your exec members, you want to go through it to make sure everything's working, you can do that too. But I recommend getting everyone involved if possible. And then training. So the last thing you can do is what you're doing now, attend this webinar. We're going to send it to you guys after this later this week, so you can always refer back and review it. I'll show you the different help center we have and configuration pages you guys can reference. So that'll go over how your chapter calculates votes and how you can use the different features. So we're going to go over those three things. But again, the main things to keep in your mind will just be logging in, making sure everything's good, using those practice files to make sure you're comfortable with the software, and then just knowing where you can go for help. And moving to the next slide. So this is going to be that activation email. This is what your chapter is going to receive to set up your OmegaRecruit. So if you are the admin for your chapter, whether you're the president or vice president of recruitment, whoever is in charge of this, you're going to get this to go through to make sure you can activate your chapter's OmegaRecruit. And then once you're in there, I'm going to show you how to add users, but your members are going to get this user login email. So once we add them, I'll show you in just a second, they're going to get this in their email inbox. They're just going to click create an account and they can set that up. If they used OmegaRecruit last year, they can use their same login and it'll get them into their account. But let me switch my screen so I can show you where in OmegaRecruit you're actually going to use them so they get this setup email. Okay, so you should be looking at, this will be the home page when you log into OmegaRecruit. Here's all the steps we're going to go over in just a second, but what we're going to do is move over to this users tab. To see the current list of users you have, you're just going to click user list. These are all going to be admin that carry over. Everybody else, when you reset the account, all your other members, their accounts can be removed. So it's probably just going to be you, maybe again, like your president on this list. So you can see who's currently there. They should be checked as an admin. If they're not, when you add them, you'll check that box. And that just means they're going to have access to all these tabs over here. But to add users, you're just going to click this and you're going to click add users. And you either have the option of uploading a list. So if you have a larger chapter or you have a lot of people you need to add, I recommend doing it this way. It'll give you the instructions right here, how to fill out your Excel spreadsheet, keep it super simple, and then you'll just choose file and upload. Or if you want to do it individually, maybe you don't have too many people to add, maybe Excel isn't your thing and you'd rather just do it this way, you can put in their first name, last name, email. When you add the user, they're automatically going to get that email that I showed you in the PowerPoint, and that way they can register their account. If anybody doesn't receive that email, I'm going to go back to this user list. Let's say you added them and they don't see it in their inbox. You can scroll down to their name and you can resend their registration email. So you would just click this button and it'll send a new one to their inbox, and that way they can go ahead and get into their account. So now I'm going to switch back over to my PowerPoint real quick. Give me 1 second. Okay, and you should be looking back at it. So again, they'll get this email and then they're going to be able to go ahead and get registered. Now, again, making things easy, because I know recruitment can be a little bit overwhelming. We try to make this training as easy as 1, 2, 3, and that'll be the same for when you do real life recruitment. So first, you're going to add your rounds. Second is uploading PNMs, and then third is uploading parties. So let me switch back. I know we're going back and forth a little bit, but I'm going to go back to OmegaRecruit and I'm going to show you how to walk through those steps and how we have it outlined to make it as easy as possible on you guys. Okay, so this is the home page when you go into OmegaRecruit, and we have the practice files up here. So what you're going to want to do when you start your chapter's mock recruitment is all you have to do is click this PNM link, party link, and then parties too. So that way we have a few options for practice. And then when you scroll down, you'll notice there's setup steps. So we have step 1, 2, step 3 is adding users. Since we already did that, it disappears. And you'll notice that as we go through these steps will disappear, 1 and 2, and then steps 4 and 5 remain there because you basically cycle through these until recruitment's over. So now that we've downloaded these, and this is what your chapter will have access to as well, you don't want to use real recruitment data. Even if your university is giving you your list of PNMs that are going through, please don't use that list just because it can get a little bit messy. We have these here so that way you know you aren't going to mess up any PNMs or your actual recruitment. So you'll download those, and then we're going to start with setting up rounds. It's step 1. You can either access these things by clicking the link or they're all in the side tab, but to make it easier, I'm just going to click step 1 and it's going to take us exactly where we need to be, which is edit rounds. Here you'll see like preference round flag. That just means whenever we add rounds, which I'm doing right now, you'll notice that this bottom one is always marked as preference. So we're going to leave it like that and we're going to edit it. And I'm just going to mark it as pref here as well, just so I know. Round 1, I'm also going to rename as open house. And then round 2, I'm going to name sisterhood. Now, something important to keep in mind here is if you have a recruitment that spans multiple days. So I'm sure you guys have seen like the PNM OOTDs on TikTok, and they have, you know, like day 1 of sisterhood outfit, day 2, day 3. Although those are multiple days in OmegaRecruit, it's all just going to be one thing added here. So you aren't going to have to add 3 different rounds of sisterhood since it's 3 days. All of those 3 days would be listed here. Same for open house. Anything else, just make sure you don't, regardless of how many days that round is, you just want 1 round for each round, 1 round for round, if that makes sense. The other thing you're going to notice is they have open voting, or if you click it, you can do party voting. So with those files I downloaded, they are already set up and separated. So open house parties, that download we have is 12 parties, and the sisterhood is going to be 9. So I'm just going to click here and set this one to 12 parties, and then this one to 9. So this is all set up. What I'm going to do is click save. Another thing I really want to emphasize right now is when you're setting up your rounds, make sure you do all of these at once. You don't want to set up, open house round during actual recruitment or in the practice, do those votes and then come back here and add a round, because it can mess up your calculations. I'm sure during recruitment, you're going to go over with all your members, like how your voting and scoring works. But in order for the software to actually be able to calculate that accurately, it needs to know how many rounds you're having before voting starts. So make sure when you go here, every single round of recruitment is added. You put in those parties and you can edit the parties later. That's not going to make a big deal, but you need at least these rounds listed and saved before any votes start to come in. So you're just going to click save right here. And then you're going to see that it updates, and then it's going to tell you the next step you need, which is going to match what's in this PNM list, and that's how we get back to the setup steps. So now we're going to go on to step two, and that is uploading PNMs. So for this, you have two options. Again, you can click step 2 or you can click PNMs, and it'll let you upload PNMs here. I'm going to keep using the steps because I think it's easiest. And then we're just going to go over the different things for this. So this page, depending on how your school organizes recruitment, whether they use ICS or Campus Director, is going to look a little different. If your school is an ICS school, there will be an option for you to import the PNMs from ICS. You'll just click it and it'll bring them in. If your school uses Campus Director, you're going to have to download the PNM list from them and then upload it here. And we have detailed instructions and examples on how that needs to do, because the formatting has to be perfect for the software to be able to read that Excel file and upload it and accurately list out like your PNMs and all of their information. So clicking on this, you can see create an Excel spreadsheet. It's going to show you the example here. Some main things to point out, if you're doing it, make sure you read the whole thing. Main things to point out are these header titles. So these header titles, which would be up here, so this is like their PNM ID number, last name, first name, hometown, all of these things have to be written exactly how it's written here in bold. When you put it on Excel, please don't bold it because it's not going to read it, but we have it bolded here just to really stand out. It has to be typed in exactly the same, otherwise the system's not going to read it. So for example, if you're down here, you can put in like high school, like HS GPA or high school GPA. But like if you put any variation of that, like if you wrote like HS grade point average and you spelled it out, it's not going to recognize that that is their GPA and it's not going to upload it. If after going through this list, you have maybe some PNM information that you really want, but it's not one of these headers, what you'll do is you'll just list it as custom 1, custom 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So those are the added columns we have, and it'll come in as custom, but once it's uploaded, you'll be able to edit that header and give it like more specific information for what it actually is. It's just for the initial upload, you're going to need to edit it to these custom titles for it to work. Next thing, scrolling down, saving spreadsheets. So this is another thing you have to be real careful about. You're going to have to save the spreadsheet as this Excel 97-2003 workbook, that type of file, and it's shown here too which one to choose. And that way, when you save it, when we go to upload it, again, the system's going to be able to read it and import all of your information accurately. So I'm going to go out of here now back to this PNM upload. We have pre-formatted these practice files. So we're just going to click PNMs, click open, upload PNMs. It's going to load for just a second. And then you can go down here. Some of these things will show like missing or whatever information. It'll give you errors down here. None of this is really important for what we're going over today, so we can just leave those. And when we go back to PNM list, we either have these setup steps or you can close it and you'll be able to see all of your PNMs listed out here. So you can see we have all of these fake members. Their pictures that come in are of these cute little bears, so you can look at those. And it'll let you start going through there to view the information, and then you'll see the information fields up here, all of that imported. So when you do this for your practice file, again, you can go through, go down, make sure the GPAs all came in. You can scroll over and see these will be the different rounds when their scores start to come in. And you can also click this hamburger menu icon, click select columns, and you can add more columns based on those like information uploads. So if you wanted to include like their hometown, if you wanted to maybe include like their preferred name, so you have that in case when they introduce themselves to you, maybe they say like, I don't know, like I'm Tori, but their name's Victoria. That way you can see both of their names listed there. Major, whatever information you want, you can check that, click done, and then it's going to add it to these different columns. So that way you have that information listed out for you there. For our PNM file, we don't have any preferred names, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that, but that is just an example of different options you can add or take away from this like PNM view. Now we're going to go back. You can click the setup button. It shows you the steps here. And you'll see that step 1 and 2 and 3 are now gone. And the only thing left is step 4 and step 5, which is advanced round and party. To do that, we're going to have to upload the parties first. So I'm going to go to PNM and then you can click upload parties. Again, we have these detailed examples listed here. So it'll have you create an Excel spreadsheet. This one is even more simple than the last one. There's just 2 columns. So you're going to have that ID number right there and then the party that they're in. This information in like real life recruitment is going to come from your school. So after voting, round 1, it should be pre-done, but after round 1, when all the voting's done and all of that's processed, the chapter submitted theirs, the PNMs have submitted theirs, and they run those numbers, they should give you an updated list of the PNMs that are going to be coming back to your house and their party number, and then you can go ahead and upload that, format it, and then upload it. So again, it's just going to be their PNM ID numbers, their party number, and then you're going to save it as that same Excel 97 2003 workbook. So that way it uploads correctly. So we're going to choose file, and key thing to note down here, the round for import is going to be open house. So we're going to choose the file that's going to be parties 1, open, and then we're going to submit it. And then you can see that it was successful. And I am going to go ahead and eventually add sisterhood, but I want to show you what that looks like on the PNM list first. So we're going to close. You can see now we have like Claire listed here, Ashley, all of them. This is their party number that's now imported because we're on round 1. It's all there. So that should be good to go. Before I switch, I was going to add the parties rated, but I'm going to wait and add votes first, and then we'll go ahead and add the parties for round 2. So let me switch my screen really. Oh, one more thing. I need to advance the rounds. So I almost got caught up here, but a good thing is to refer back to these steps. First, we're going to advance the round and party. So we're going to click step 4. We need to make sure we open the round. So right now it's set to before recruitment, but we're going to switch it to open house party 1. The round status is open, and then you just click change status. And now we should go ahead and be able to vote. So let me pause my screen and switch that over. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Sorry, it just took a second to load. And this is what like your average member that's not an admin is going to see when they log in. So they'll click vote, and you're going to see that their ballot shows up. Here, you can click this drop-down box, and it'll let you choose the PNM. Another cool thing is this little icon right here. They can click that, and they can get more information on the member they spoke to. So if you maybe needed to jog someone's memory to like put in votes or make sure that was the person you spoke to, you can click that. If we click that little paper button up there, it's going to take us back here, and then we can put in our votes. So we can choose, I'll say 4. We're going to choose to put in a comment. So we may say like, super interested in joining the sorority. And then we can go ahead and choose a match member, which I'm going to show you once I'm done putting this in how that can work. So we'll just choose Allie, and we're going to submit it. And then let me switch back, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so if we go to PNMs, the PNM list, and this should upload or refresh, you can scroll down, and her party or her vote number is going to show up under open house round. So as you go through here, it should show up, and we can see she has a 4. Now, when I recommended the match, it's going to be this matching tab over here, and this is an optional feature your chapter has to use. It's not required to do this for OmegaRecruit to function, but it is something that we've built in that can be really useful. And that's just going to help you match up the PNMs with members currently in your chapter that may have common interests or things in common. So that way, they can go through the recruitment process and maybe have some things to start speaking to them with. So if we click this, you can choose the settings. So there's going to be recommendations. So that's what we just put in where it says recommended member match, starred members and PNMs, interests, and hometowns. So we saw what these recommendations are. We saw the interests and hometowns. That's what's going to be uploaded on that PNM file. But the starring is kind of able to use like how your chapter like to their discretion, I suppose. So what I've noticed a lot of chapters do, they'll star their members and PNMs. So they'll star maybe their standout PNMs, like girls that they see coming through, women they see coming through, and they think based on just like their initial application, like their involvement, maybe their philanthropy, things that they did in high school or their first year or two of college before they decided to go through recruitment that really stood out and you think aligns with your sorority, they're going to stand out. And you could maybe go to your PNM list and you're just going to click the star button next to their name and that's going to star them. So you double click it, it will mark them. If you want to unclick it, then you can double click it again and it'll take it away. So these will be those impact PNMs that you really think would be a good fit for your chapter just based on like initial review of their applications. And then when you go to your users and you click your user list, you'll also see these stars. So again, what a lot of chapters may do is if these are really strong recruiters, maybe you have, those members who are just really outgoing and bubbly. Everybody can do a great job, but some people, this is just like a gift they have and they really have a way of connecting with PNMs. You may star them and that way it's gonna prioritize if you select it, matching them with those standout PNMs. So here we have these people selected. These are our fake users that we think would be great recruiters for our chapter. And when we go to matching, we can mark that this is required. So that way it is gonna require both PNMs with those stars and users with those stars to match, and you can set the importance of it. Maybe it's not a requirement, but you really want it to happen. If possible, you can uncheck the requirement button, put this all the way up, and that way when you run this, it's going to prioritize matching those members for you. Recommendations, again, those are based on like conversations. So this is going to come into play more after round one. Based on those conversations, maybe you find out that one of the PNM's involvement really matches something that one of your sisters is passionate about and you recommend them, you can up this and that way the system will prioritize saying we're going to look for those recommendations put in by your current members and try to match them to those PNMs so in upcoming parties they get to speak to each other. So you can go through here, it'll let you select the max number of matches for both the PNMs and your members. It'll let you choose the round. You could click generate matches and it'll have them all listed here. So those are, again, are just suggestions, but it's not required to use this feature for your members or for recruitment, but it is a great tool. So going back to PNMs, I'm going to go ahead and put in some more votes on these numbers just so we can kind of review some of the other features and options in OmegaRecruit. I'm going to do it for round one first, and then again, we're going to go back and advance that to round two. So just give me 1 second. Okay, so here we'll go through, we'll do Gabby, we'll say a 4, and we're going to click submit, and then we'll do one more for party one, round one, and we'll do Kenley, and we'll give her a 3. I'm going to recommend, I think she would be great to talk to Dalton, and we'll click submit. And then if we go back, I'm going to advance the party so that way we get a different list of PNMs. So now when we refresh this, you can see all of the round one votes will be listed under open house as we scroll down. It may be a little ways down, so you can start seeing them here. But let's say round one's done. Now we're going to go ahead and advance it to round two. So you're going to click chapter, and then it's still open house. We're going to choose party 2. And then when we click change status, when we go back to the ballot, it's no longer going to show us those PNMs that were in the party 1. It's going to update the list. If we click vote here, And now there's going to be a complete new list of girls, and you can see it short. So this is going to make it easier for your chapter. Instead of scrolling through hundreds of PNMs or thousands of PNMs, it's just going to be the ones that are in that party. So you can click Afton. Maybe she really stood out. We'll say 5, and I want her to talk to Sandy. Click submit. And again, like I did for party 1, you'll go through, all your members will vote, and then you can go ahead and review that data. So reviewing that, we're going to close voting, because let's say voting's done for round 1. You change that status, and we're going to go through and look at the different options for viewing these votes on your PNMs. If we scroll down and we can see Afton here was one that we voted on, we can click her name and it's going to let us review the votes that she received. So you can see that I was the one that put the vote in, the vote number. If I had made a comment on her, it would show up here. I didn't make a comment, but all of those will show up. And as well, you can click here to see PNM details and their recruitment stats. So as recruitment goes on, you can see how many votes these numbers are receiving for each round. Another way you can kind of keep up with just like an overhead view of votes is looking here. You can see the number of users your chapter currently has, active PNMs, your total PNMs, and then the total number of votes submitted. So right now we have 4, but once you get to the end of party 1, you're probably going to want to make sure there's more votes than there are PNMs to make sure everybody was voted on that attended a party. If you go back here to your PNM list and you want to maybe arrange these or go, see like just people who've been voted on, you can click these and it should organize them, or you can use the search feature. You can also drag these around. So if you wanted to maybe reorder this, you can click it and drag it and it's going to reorder your columns. You can also search for people this way based on if they're active, their year in school. So if we wanted to type in freshman, freshman singular, you can type it in that way. It'll only show you, or it should only show you the people in that class. In this case, it's not, but generally that would go through and work. It may just be because I have 2 different accounts open voting and I have this example account, but when y'all do it, you should be able to use the search feature and that should be good. Another thing you can do is click here and you can export your PNM list. So sometimes people will do this after each round just so they have an updated overview of their PNMs, the votes, everything on it, and it'll save. That way, if anything were to happen, it shouldn't, but if something accidentally gets reset or anything like that, you have all that information stored just as a backup, so you can go ahead and do that. Something I didn't go over previously, but I think it's good to point out while we're here is this slideshow. Again, this would probably be done before recruitment, but if you want to go through and kind of review PNMs, you can click this and it'll let you use the arrow keys and go through your members or PNMs, excuse me, that way. You can kind of see if they're starred up here or not. It'll show up and it'll have all that information that uploaded. So you can just go through here. I know sometimes chapters may do this just to kind of get an idea of the woman coming in. That way it's easier to identify PNMs. I know once recruitment gets going, sometimes it's like a blur, all the people you talk to. So that way you have a bit of an idea when you go back to vote on them after a party, you can, maybe have an easier way to put a face with the name and put in the votes on them. When you're done going through this, you just click escape and then you should be good to go there. If I click the setup step, like I said before, it'll show you step 4 and step 5. And we're going to keep cycling through that. So since we finished doing round 1 and we already uploaded the PNM parties for round 1, we're going to go ahead and now switch it to round 2. So once you got that list back from your school, the next round of parties, you'll just go back to PNMs, upload parties. You're going to switch this to sisterhood, choose file, parties 2, and then you're just going to click submit parties. And now when you go back to your PNM list, it's going to show their new parties. We're going to have to refresh this and advance the round. Excuse me. So we're going to go to chapter. We're going to switch this to sisterhood, change status. And then when you go here, it's going to show their updated parties. Now you'll also notice that some of these PNMs are blue. Those are people who are not on a party list. So OmegaRecruit will automatically update like the overall status of PNMs based on those parties. So instead of having to go through and individually update the PNM saying they're not returning, it'll look at that file of parties, and if a PNM isn't listed or assigned a party, it's going to change their overall status to regret, and that just means they're not going to be coming back for another round. And then you can easily go through and kind of view the women who will be returning, um, and just go through that. So you can see one of our starred PNMs is gone, but maybe after round one, you talked to Shelby, really liked her, think she'd be a good fit. You can again go in and start adjusting these features. So when you match them, you can have these like new standout PNMs that you really want to recruit. I'm not going to go through and do too many more votes for party two, just because I think it would be a little bit tedious to watch. I'm just going to put in a few on my other screen right now. Let me submit them, and then I can refresh right here. So when we scroll over, you're going to see that oh geez, their sisterhood round will start having scores show up. So you can see here, this PNM has a 5 in sisterhood, and then I voted on another one that's more towards the bottom, and she should also have a 5. So you'll see those keep coming in. If you want to review votes overall for members, you can again click their name, but another way to do it is if you go to a user and you click your user list and you click like your voting member's name. I have to scroll down and find my name. You'll be able to see the votes submitted just based on that user. So if you wanted to see, if I was in your chapter and you wanted to see who I voted on and how I voted, you can go to that user list, click the name, and it's going to show all of the PNMs that I voted on and how I voted on them. You can also see any comments I left. So for Sisterhood, I didn't leave any, but in Open House, you'll see some comments listed here. And then you can also see my profile, but that's a way if you want to, start reviewing members, individual votes, you can do that. Another thing that's going to be really important here is editing. So let's say after recruitment, again, it's kind of rushed. I know there's like a short turnaround between parties. If one of your members comes up to you and says, hey, I just voted on Audrey, but maybe I accidentally clicked the wrong button and click submit, and she wants to edit it, you can go to Audrey, or not Audrey, you could go to my account and then go to the vote on Audrey here and click edit, and it'll let you adjust what votes were put in. So if you wanted to adjust it to a 3, you could go ahead and do that and click save. Or let's say maybe there was 2 Audreys and I voted on the wrong one. I could go to you and say, hey, I didn't mean to vote on Audrey B. So you could go in and delete it, and that way I could put on a vote on the correct Audrey. So that is there. If there's any little mix-ups with your members, you are able to go ahead and edit those. Another thing you can do is look at voter distribution. So if you go here and you download this, it'll be able to show you kind of just an overview of how I'm voting. So maybe if I keep giving everybody 5s, in theory, that'd be great. But most likely with how many PNMs you're talking to, I'm not going to only be talking to PNMs that are 5. So if you see a couple of your members doing that, maybe you can just review, like your voting scale and what types of qualities or what types of like achievements or involvement or whatever it may be based on the category would give them a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, etc. So that's there for you. You can also go here and click user reports. This is just going to download all of your user information, and that kind of covers everything under the user tab. If you go under this PNM tab, you can kind of see reports and different overviews. So here is where you can download. Again, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to slow down. Sometimes my computer goes a little slow when I download these, but you can choose to generate reports. So this is just going to be, again, that PNM overview. We can include comments or not. If you want it to only be your actives after each round, you could do it that way. Here you can see and download all of the votes that have been submitted, all of the comments, kind of similar to everything else. And here's another slideshow. So instead of like the previous slideshow, this one's going to be a PowerPoint instead of being online. So maybe you download it as a PowerPoint and you can put it in like a chat or email it to your members if they want to go through and begin reviewing PNMs. Sometimes too, you could maybe remove some PNMs and leave only the starred ones. So that way you could really get to know your standout PNMs, do it that way. And then this tab I think is really great to go over, this voter distribution. So instead of it being just the member like individual user. This you can see as your chapter overall, so you can get a feel for how voting's going. Again, if you maybe have, when you look at this voter distribution, you see that your members are voting a lot of the same numbers. So maybe there's like a bunch of threes or a bunch of fours. You can again kind of review those voting guidelines so you can differentiate your PNMs. If everybody's a three, it's going to be really hard to start making those PNM lists when you submit them to the university and compare it to the PNM's votes. So that way it can really just get more variety and make sure PNMs are receiving the votes that they best reflects like how they fit in your house and their performance. And then this vote audit report, when we download this, I will show this one, or I didn't edit any votes, but if you do download this to PDF or Excel, it's going to give you a list of every change made to any vote and every vote put in. So if you had a scenario like I showed you earlier where you need to update a PNM's vote, or a vote on a PNM, I should say, it's going to report it. So that way, you know, like it's on record if something was changed, you know, who did it, when they did it. And that way it just kind of keeps the integrity of recruitment. It'll also show you, let's say maybe you forgot to close voting under the chapter tab after, you know, sisterhood was over. If you wanted to double check that nothing was submitted after parties were over or anything, you could go to that audit report, download it, and make sure that no votes were cast after the parties had actually ended. If they did, you could go in and delete those just to make sure that nothing inappropriate or unfair is going on, since recruitment is such a serious process and I know we all really value it. So just make sure you go there, download it, and everything is good to go. The next thing I'm going to show you is this hub. So here is a bunch of different tiles and they're full of all different reports based on the information you have in OmegaRecruit. You can also sometimes click on them and it'll give you like a flip side. You see this one has a little arrow and it just gives you a different way of looking at that data. Again, this is kind of giving you an overall distribution of how many threes, fours, and fives was received. If your chapter doesn't use that scale, I know things vary based on your national organization. It would obviously have those different values here. And then going through, you can kind of just see, you know, an overview of GPAs. This is legacy. So if your chapter or your organization keeps up with legacies, you can see those listed here. Votes versus user, there's all different ones. I'm not gonna bore you by going through them, but just know this hub exists and it has a lot of great data for you guys to go over, and you can flip them over and have different views of what that's gonna look like. That's super useful. For you, I know I showed you the voting on a non-admin, but when you log in as an admin, when it's your time to vote on a PNM, if you're on your desktop, it's just this vote button. It's not going to let me do it just because I'm an administrator on Omega One, but on yours, it'll let you vote on the ballot just like I had previously showed you on the other account. You just have more of a view here. Under the chapter tab, this is where your chapter, if you are an ICS school, where you're going to connect it. So here you'd click ICS info and it'll show you how to click it. Something I want to point out is if you are an ICS school, when you're going to do this practice recruitment, I would disconnect ICS just for the mock recruitment rounds. That way, you know for a fact you're not going to mess up anything that will be involved with actual recruitment. And then once you're done with mock recruitment, you'll be able to reset the account, reconnect ICS for real life recruitment, and that way you know everything's good to go. Last thing I want to show you is this master reset. This is where you're going to go once you complete mock recruitment. When you want to reset the account, you'll click this. It's going to reset your non-admin users, so you will have to re-add those, and it's going to wipe all of the PNM data, all of the votes, everything, comments from your account. Make sure once real recruitment starts, avoid this tab like at all costs, because if you accidentally reset your account during real recruitment, there really isn't a guarantee that we can get that information back. It's really difficult. It may just be gone. So you want to avoid going to this master reset tab once real recruitment starts, because it will wipe all of your data and it is very difficult, sometimes impossible to get that back. So just go to this tab after mock recruitment, and then well after bid day, you've downloaded everything you need, you can go and master reset. But that's last for the chapter tab. this configuration tab, for ours, it just says plain configuration. For you guys, it will show based on your national organization, and it's going to break down how voting works for your organization. So it'll show you how overall scores are calculated. It's going to show you if you do pre-scores. So if you have, letters of recommendation that your chapter accepts, or maybe you calculate a score before going into actual recruitment, maybe based on GPA and involvement, things like that. It's going to go over all of that information here and break it down. So if you ever have questions on scoring or how things are calculated in OmegaRecruit, if once you start practicing, you want to double check that the votes your members put in match like the overall calculated votes, you can go here and it'll give you a breakdown of how those totals are made up. There's equations, different things like that. It's not too difficult. And we have reviewed everything, so it should be working. But again, it's a great resource to refer back to that. The other thing I'm going to show you is this Get Help button. So this will take you to our resource center. And that's one of those, at the beginning, if you'll remember, I said like tips for recruitment where you can go to get help. This is where you're going to want to go. This has it broken down kind of by these tabs right here. And you can click into them, and they're full of articles we've written to answer really common questions we get. So it's all broken down here. I think most anything that could be asked is most likely in here, but if something that you're looking for you can't find, you can click the submit a request button, and that's going to go ahead and send to our OmegaRecruit team, and they'll be able to get back to you and answer any questions you have. If you've run into any issues or you think something looks not right, you can submit a request that way, and then our team will go ahead and get back with you. So you can just click based on the category there, and then it'll give you a box to submit that. There's also the support email down here, so you can click that and then it'll go ahead and send an email directly to them. It'll give you the email address. But that is a general overview. Amanda, do you know if we have had any questions come in?
Yes, we had one that I thought would be a good question to just go over real quick. Someone asked if what they should do if they have to change the number of parties day of,
Mm-hmm,
and I let them know that they can go to the edit rounds page and just
mm-hmm,
change the number of parties, and then they
mm-hmm.
would need to save it and then go to the P&M's page and upload the parties.
Correct. And like I said before, you want to make sure the rounds are set up, but the parties you can edit as recruitment goes on, because obviously you can't know before, sisterhood, how many parties you'll have. In mock recruitment we can, because we have those practice files. But yeah, you'll just go back to your chapter tab, click edit rounds, and then you can choose how many parties based on like what your school has given back to you. You'll click save, and then like Amanda said, when you go to P&Ms, you'll be able to upload parties, and you'll just want to make sure it's set to the correct round, and you'll just add that file and upload it, and it'll let you do it that way.
And then they had a follow-up question making sure that that wouldn't affect voting.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them no. The only time voting gets affected is if you delete rounds, and you don't want to do that.
Yep, exactly. So parties are fine. That's not going to impact scoring. It's only adding and deleting rounds once voting starts. So you should be safe to go ahead and edit those.
Those were the only two questions that we had that came in.
Okay, perfect. Well, let me switch back to my PowerPoint then really quick. Okay, here we go. And here we just have a reminder of that, the preparation success, which is logging in. So making sure you add those users, everyone can get into their account. We went over where you can send reminder emails. Also, if people, get that email and they try to log in and it's saying that maybe they're not recognized, a common issue is sometimes your members will log in with the wrong email. And I know it seems straightforward, but maybe they told you they want to log in with their school email, but when they try to register their account, they're using like their personal Gmail or Yahoo or whatever it may be. It's not going to recognize them. So for troubleshooting, just double check with your member that that's the correct email address they wanted to use. If it is and they're still having problems, you can email login support at omegafy.com or call our 800 number, and there's like an entire dedicated team for just login issues, so they'll be able to go over that with you. Again, second step, practice. So use those test files, go through. You can practice as many times as you want. You can go to that chapter tab, click master reset, and reset it to keep redoing the practice. Just again, make sure you avoid master reset once real recruitment starts because it will get rid of your data. And then train, just review the webinars and in-app help. That was a bit of a tongue twister, but you can go through, refer back to this webinar. There's also a bunch more. If you go to YouTube, and I think it's like at the OmegaFi, if you just type in OmegaFi in the search bar, it'll go to our YouTube page, and we have tons of OmegaRecruit webinars and shorter little help videos, so you can always go to our YouTube channel and review those. And then just at the end, we have our support email. So any issue you may run into, you can either under that like get help section, when you click submit a request, you can do that, or you can directly just email recruitment_support@omegafi.com. It's going to go to our OmegaRecruit team and they'll be able to help you with anything you need. During recruitment season, we do have 24/7 support. So no matter what time of day or night, middle of the night, whatever it is, there will be people on standby in case something happens, since we know recruitment is so time sensitive. So feel free to just send an email whenever you need help, and our team will be constantly reviewing that and getting back to you as soon as they can. Usually it's like no more than like an hour or two. It's really fast. So probably sooner. So yeah, those are your little get help options. And then if anything else comes up, feel free to just email us, or you can ask a last minute question right here and I can go over it before I let you go. But other than that, I really appreciate you guys joining us. I know it's like a little bit of a chunk of your day, but hopefully this helps you guys have a successful recruitment season. I know I really like watching everything and all the updates on y'all's Instagrams and TikToks and everything else. So I appreciate you joining us.